Visa was cancelled under health and good order grounds. We heard late last night Novak Djokovic will be interviewed in about 10 minutes' time with officials before returning possibly to detention at around 10 a.m. What are your thoughts on this?
Look, I think that the Minister has done everything that he was supposed to do. He has to keep in mind what's best for the public interest, what's best for Australia, what the rules are. And I think he's simply given himself enough time to consider all aspects of the matter, to provide procedural fairness to Djokovic, allowed his team to supply information, and he's made a very good decision that was well thought out. And I don't think it could have been anything else other than rules are rules and everyone have to abide by them. And given that Djokovic didn't abide by the rules to allow non-citizens and non-residents to enter the country, his visa had to be cancelled.
So, Sam, what do you expect that will happen at 8 a.m. today?
Well, at 8 a.m. today, he is going to be interviewed by the Immigration Department. They will ask him a lot of questions. I dare say they'll ask him about the travel he undertook within the 14 days before coming to Australia. They'll ask him about whether he breached COVID rules in Serbia and in Spain, and they'll have a look at, health and good order policies and make a decision about whether he should stay in Australia, and if so, on what basis. And that's a very curly question, because if they allow him to stay in Australia and play in the open, really, it cuts across all the rules that we have, and other people couldn't do it. So why should he be allowed to do it? And let's face it, all of the people that are otherwise at Melbourne to compete in the Australian Open have complied with the rules and have been double vaccinated. Whether they wanted to or not, they knew that that was the rule, they did it, and therefore they're here ready to play. Now we have a situation where this guy isn't double vaccinated. He's relying on an exemption that is not acceptable to the federal government. So I guess the only decision they could make was that he has to go. And the minister's decision is something that you really can't challenge. It's a personal opinion that he has. You can look at the grounds upon which he made that decision, but I think it's going to be very difficult for Djokovic to overturn this decision. After today's conference, I think they're in court tomorrow, and I think we'll have a decision by Sunday afternoon.
Can he ask for a bridging visa? And if so, is there a possibility that he could play under such visas?
He could ask for one, and if it is granted, then it'll be conditional. One of the conditions might be that he'll be entitled to play in the Australian Open. There might be other conditions about what he can do otherwise, but that really just smacks in the face of the whole thing. I mean, why should you be able to, squirm your way around conditions and rules to do what you came here to do? I mean, he doesn't care if he's told to go home after he wins the Australian Open. It's just a question of whether he should be here now or not. And it's something that the minister had to consider in the interests of the public. And from what I see and from what I read, most of the public are very much in favour of the visa being cancelled, because they had to go through a hell of a lot with lockdowns and rules and obligations that they had to meet, especially in Melbourne. They did it tougher than anywhere else. So why should someone else get special treatment?
And Djokovic can't be removed from Australia while the legal action is taking place?
No, not at all. Whilst he has a right of appeal, and until that appeal is determined, he's entitled to stay here. But as I understand it, after today's interview, he will go back into detention.
Sam, what about the 3-year ban that we're hearing? So if he does lose the visa, there's talk that he won't be able to enter the country for 3 years. If that happens, is he able to appeal that 3-year ban?
Look, technically, you're not permitted to come back into the country for 3 years. However, this is discretionary. It's up to the government whether they apply that rule or not. And there are circumstances in which they would not impose it. In other words, if someone wants to come here for a very special reason or extenuating circumstances, then they wouldn't apply the ban. So I don't know that they would enforce that ban in future should it arise. So it's really discretionary. And if he doesn't, if he's not allowed to come in, I don't know that you can appeal that decision.
And just quickly, this has really put a spotlight on others who are in detention centres for various visa issues, hasn't it?
It sure has. And it just goes to show the unfairness in a lot of ways. Some of these people have been detained for years. Some of these people have had to wait a very, very long time to try and get into court to argue their case. And in this instance, we can have a court sit over the weekend, which is really, not something that's all that common. So why is special treatment being given to one person as opposed to the thousands of other refugees who want their day in court as well?
Well, we're certainly going to know more over the next couple of days, but really appreciate your time and expertise. Sam Macedone, criminal lawyer, will hopefully touch base with you again shortly.
Thank you, Janie.